Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Jane Shodel. I'm the director of I am the programmer of special presentations. And it gives me great pleasure to be able to facilitate an on-stage conversation with our guest in the interest of time. So please join me in welcoming and congratulating writer-director Chloe Domont. Congratulations on this amazing film.
Thank you.
I wanted to just dive right in and ask, where and how did the idea of tackling these themes of sort of the pitfalls of more traditional gender dynamics mean that this was going to be what you were going to make your first feature about?
Well, for me, it was coming from this some personal experiences I had, and it was really this feeling that I was having at the time when some of my professional successes didn't feel like a win, they felt like a loss because of some of the kinds of men I was dating, men who were threatened by my success in some way. And it just made me realize how much hold these ingrained power dynamics still have over us. So this was a feeling I wanted to put on screen and be as ruthless with the execution of it as the nature of the subject matter itself.
Absolutely. I think one of the things that comes across to me in the film is this idea of how women are ingrained to normalize almost getting smaller in order to keep their relationships going. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think I can talk about this all day, so how much time do we have now? I mean, women in general are taught to normalize their pain from a very young age, so I think there's something about, when we get our periods and stuff like that, I think it goes very, very deep. But no, I think that there's this wanting to protect the male ego and not wanting to hurt the male ego, and I think these are just dynamics that we feel on both sides, but we're all afraid to talk about it because we're afraid to admit that that's what's really going on, so yeah.
The characters you've created here are 360 degrees whole, so that we have both empathy and occasionally dislike for both of them. How was that aided by the actors that you ultimately cast?
I mean, they both Phoebe and Alden brought so much humanity to these roles. And, I've always said, Emily is not a hero, she's a human. Mm-hmm. And she is messy at times and ugly at times. I think, a lot of with her ugliness and what she does in the film is I wanted to show with that how women are forced to play ugly to survive in that kind of workspace with those kinds of men. I think there was so much duality that both Phoebe and Alden brought to those roles. And with Alden too, for me, it was like, this is a man who adores her because of her intelligence. He adores her because she's a killer. He adores her for her strengths, but he also can't help but feel threatened by the same thing he adores her for. And that doesn't make him a bad guy. This is a systemic societal problem. As a society, we raise boys to believe that masculinity is an identity when it's not. It's an energy. So.
Well said. So the film is set in the world of finance. Is this a landscape that you had any familiarity with?
Not at all.
Can you talk about making that decision to do that and how you found your way around it?
I wanted to explore new territory, and when I was writing the script, I mapped out the relationship arc first and the relationship drama. And once I had the beats of that, then I was looking for a backdrop to set it against. And I came to high finance just because I thought, the high stakes environment, it just in general is exciting and dramatic to watch. But also like the highs and lows of of that work environment, what that, how it creates a kind of toxic work environment, how the toxicity of a work environment feeds into the toxicity of a relationship and vice versa. And it becomes this kind of vicious cycle that you can't really escape. So that's why I landed there.
It seems very perfect. And Eddie Marsan, who plays Campbell, who is so remarkable in this role, there is a sense, too, that he sees that there are cracks in their relationship, and he exploits that. Did you work with him very much on that, or?
The thing I love about Eddie is just, like, there's always, like, this electricity in his eyes, and a danger in his eyes where you never know what he's gonna do or say. And he's been one of my favorite character actors forever. So yeah, there were certain things that we definitely discussed, but also when you put the camera on Eddie, he just also he'll take it to another level you have no idea or you weren't expecting at all, and that's what I love about him.
The unpredictability of it.
Oh, yeah. He's just like, he's unhinged in the most exciting way.
Can we talk a little bit about the look of the film? The film looks amazing. The production design, even down to the costumes. It tells you constantly where they are in their relationship and where they are in the world. Who did you work with on that?
Our production designer was Steve Summersgill, who's amazing. And then Kate Forbes was our costume designer. In terms of the production design, I wanted to create two different looks of claustrophobia. So that they're both kind of stuck in this toxic bubble when they go back, from the apartment to the office, back to the apartment to the office, and there's no real escape. But I wanted it to look different and feel different, but still feeling like they're always in each other's, sight. So with the apartment, and we built all these on set. That was really important to me because we were in these spaces so much. It was important that they looked right, and we had the space to shoot them properly. But for the apartment, I wanted to actually start to bring the walls in of the apartment. So you start to feel like towards the second act, you start to feel like the space kind of closing in on them, and you feel that claustrophobia a little bit more. And then in terms of the office, I wanted it to be all glass, where they're always in each other's sight.
It feels very much like a fishbowl. There's like that pit in the center where everybody's going, but you can always see these things that are happening behind glass doors. And also, too, just the look of the way that she put on this armor, if you will, every day, and the contained tightness of her hair, all of that told us so much about who she was going into work every day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what we had. It's funny you mentioned armor. That's how Kate and I spoke about it. While still, so it's like she wanted to dress in a way that she presented herself as someone like a serious person, but she still also wanted to hold on to her femininity with like the little frilly collars, which is something she gets attacked for later on, which I just wanted to show that sometimes just like the margin of error for women is so small. But yeah, for like the cupcake scene, we were like, how cupcakey do we want to go here, And we realized if we go too cupcakey, then, we don't want him to really have a point, just like kind of have a point. So it was important that it was just a little frill, but enough to be used against her in some way.
I think, too, that, I'm not sure how to phrase this, the use of sex in the film always is very much a barometer of where they are in the relationship. The beginning scene somewhat echoes the end scene. But how did you work with your actors on that?
We had an intimacy coordinator, and our intimacy coordinator, Sam, she was there with us during rehearsals. We rehearsed for 2 weeks before we shot the film. Not just for that, but just to bond and work out the kinks of the scenes before we end up shooting them. I mean, I'm a rehearsal freak, and so are my actors. So it was a great experience to just work out some of these things, bumps before you get on the day and shooting them, and so that when you actually are shooting, you can kind of, just fly. But a lot of those scenes we shot in two parts. We would shoot the performance. We would shoot like the scene up and like through, like get the performance, and then we would treat like some of this, especially the second, like the end bathroom scene, we treated that like a stunt. So, so that the actors didn't have to think about giving their performance and then wondering where their head was going to land. It was a safety thing, but also a comfort thing for everyone around. And once we got the performance, then it felt like a big relief. And it was like, okay, now everything moving forward is just very technical, and we've already gone through the beats. So
that sounds like creating a really safe space for your actors too, to explore.
Yeah, I think it was for them and for everyone, yeah.
All right. And how did you know that Phoebe and Alden were your Luke and Emily?
I mean, it was pretty instant. I saw Phoebe, the character of Emily is a rising star in the world of finance, and so it was important that I find an actress who was a rising star. And Phoebe had just done Bridgerton, so there was some buzz there, but she hadn't done a feature film. So that was exciting to me, and I watched the pilot of Bridgerton, and I just honed in on her performance, and there was a vulnerability and a fierceness, and she's incredibly present and dialed in, and there were certain qualities there that I knew I could take, and an untapped fury that I wanted to unleash. So.
And for Alden?
And Alden, I've loved his work since Hail Caesar. He's always been on the radar for me. And I knew, when meeting Alden, so I was a big fan of his work, and then I met with him, but I knew that this film needed a very confident man to play that level of insecurity. And Alden was incredibly confident. He's incredibly comfortable with who he is and in his own skin. He's a total professional and was just thirsty for, kind of rich, psychotic material to dive into. So.
And you gave it to him.
And I gave it to him.
You gave it to him, for sure. Now, I want to divert for a moment. I want to ask you about where you shot.
So we built all the sets in Eastern Europe and Serbia. My producers, they had shot Glass Onion there, so they had a great experience with the crew and everything. So we realized that we were able to, since I really did want to build these sets, that we would be able to build it there and have the resources to put as much money on screen as possible, and also shoot days. Like, shoot days were incredibly important to me. So we got way more shoot days shooting over there, and then we shot all the exteriors in New York.
It's just a remarkable thing to me. The look of it is so terrific. Now, this film has caused a lot of conversation and a lot of talk, which I think is, of course, the point. Can you speak a little bit about how you feel about people's response to the film?
I mean, it's incredibly exciting. I think that's what you want as a filmmaker, for people to actually think about your film more than 30 seconds after they finish it, So, no, this film is I always intended to make it raising, certain questions. And I hope that, I've had women come up to me saying, I've never felt this scene before, which has been really rewarding. And then I've had, certain people start asking questions, which are some of the same questions that drove me to writing this film in the first place. Like, how can we dismantle the link between female empowerment and male fragility? How can women learn to embrace their success without fearing that it'll hurt them on some level? How can we demystify the role that men are raised into thinking they're supposed to fill? And how can we love and trust each other in a world that's so dependent on the very ingrained power dynamics that get in the way of that love and respect and trust?
It's a remarkably audacious and auspicious directorial debut. I congratulate you on it, and I want to thank you so much for bringing the film to us here today. It's a pleasure to watch.
Thank you.
A pleasure to see you. Congratulations. Congratulate her, please. Thank you. Thank you for being here.